Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the finale of the GT5 League of Apex Online Racing. It's the first season and it's so cool to see how this has panned out. I don't know if my fellow commentator here, Fistopheles, has the standings on screen yet, but we'll have a look at them soon. As you can see, it's going to be such a tight battle today. We have Scott, who's actually looked like he's signed with a team right now, and it's been time for that a long time, I think. So F4H, very lucky then to have Scott signed. Scott's gonna fight the T-Mac then for the title. And then Nesterovich is actually in the fight as well. So yeah, it's just come down to the wire absolutely hard here. So I'm trying to... Yeah. There we have the standings in... Oh, I'm getting some errors on the screen, excuse me.
The car is coming into formation lap as well now. We have to do this a bit quickly. As you've seen the standings now, I'll pull up the track layout for you to see. This is COTA National, which is basically just COTA without the very long straight, or back straight. We'll have the formation point pop up at the end of the third sector. And the acceleration point, though, is only at the very, very end of the start-finishing straight, so it'll be interesting to see where they decide to make their moves. As we currently have the championship standing as per usual as the qualifying order. So T-Mac in first position, Scott second, 5 aces Nesterovich, 0 Stefan, Berserker in 5th, King Kodiak in 6th, Dangerous Ginetta in 7th, Flask in 8th, JK in 9th, it seems, at least at the moment. They've not formed up yet. That's the reason.
They're still on the grid.
I was wondering a bit about that. We'll have them line up and then read it out for you. So we currently have 2 Desert Pack in 6th position. King Kodiak's teammate, this one. Flask right behind him. Followed by Berserker. And behind him is...
Berserker was in a fair few incidents last time around, so might see him go a little bit more careful this time.
Were you commenting? Did you have a stream for the last race?
Yep, with Andrex.
With
that
Andrex.
was a good stream.
Right. If you would be so kind to walk me through what happened, as I've not had much time to...
Yeah, man, there was so much happening. There was actually... The biggest thing about last race was the S's in Catalonia.
Right.
And there were so many cars that just spun off and they just smashed into the wall there, so...
That's interesting.
Another tidbit about this track, some drivers were talking about a lot of understeer, excuse me, in the later stages of the lap, of the race. So we might see some... I don't think that they're going to try to conserve the tires really, but they're just going to go ham, and especially in this sprint race, which the wear is not going to be any factor, but in the main race it will.
We have heard from the drivers that these cars do burn through their tires quite a bit, which has seemingly always been an issue in the feature races, although not as much in the sprint races. I believe for Scott to win this championship and take it away from T-Mac, as Scott did not compete in the first round of this season of Ginetta GT5 Racing, he would have to win both races, and T-Mac would have to finish lower than 2nd and 3rd in any of the respective races.
Yeah, this is going to come down to the wire, because Scott has come... yeah, they're reaching the formation right now, so... Yeah, Scott has been just dominating force every race. The last race, he actually ended up winning both of them as well. And in the sprint race, yeah, so he actually caught up to, I think Dakusa was in...
As we have them now coming up to the start finishing straight. T-Mac having, of course, the inside line, as he is the official pole setter, and we'll wait and see when he puts his foot on the throttle. Like I said, the acceleration point is quite late, and as I say that, the race is underway. T-Mac getting a pretty good start there. pulling about a car's length ahead of Scott, but Scott going down the inside of turn 1 possibly there. Having a look, but so far they've kept it clean. Scott has slotted in behind T-Mac. They've already pulled a bit of a gap to Nesterowicz and Zero Stefan there. Followed by Storment, 2 Desert Pack, Berserker, and Flask.
Berserker's on the inside of...
Oh. He's right behind 2 Desert Pack here. Might go for a move there if 2 Desert Pack isn't careful enough. Currently in... And as we see, Storment is actually going for a move on Nesterowicz there, it seems. And 2 Desert Pack is going on a move on Storment, and there's contact between 2 Desert Pack and Storment and Nesterowicz there. With all of them seemingly slowing down in the pack. So the entire pack has lost quite a bit of pace there due to that small incident. It doesn't seem to be much damage on the cars, it was just a slight tap, and on my screen there is no visible damage on the vehicles, so they should be fine for now, as we now have Storment, who's fallen back to 11th position because of this.
Oh,
and there's contact
as
Dakuza was sideways on the road, possibly having lost the rear end and spinning out there, with his car having received quite a lot of damage. Dakuza now in 13th position, and JK just in front of him also had a bit of damage, as we saw that his headlight was in fact broken. We currently have Scott very close to T-Mac still. We'll have to see if he can actually pull past him there, as it currently appears that he does have a bit of an edge in terms of pace, as he's putting quite a lot of pressure on T-Mac.
I just wanted to mention that Stefan is actually 4 seconds behind right now, so these are the 2 titans of this league right now. They're just fighting it out for that title. So this is the fight going on right on the screen right now. The title fight actually. So Scott, yeah, pushing really hard, as he's been a little bit faster than Scott every race, and yeah, T-Mac is still fast, but has been caught up with some midfield packages, in traffic in the main race, as they start from the back then in a reverse grid.
Yes. T-Mac being a bit unluckier than Scott in traffic, having had a few incidents this season already, which have cost him quite a lot of points. If I do remember back, or if we look back on the first race of this season, about 3 weeks ago now it is,
ooh, that's
there was some very, very unfortunate contacts there, which had lost him quite a lot of positions. But
Nesterowicz and Berserker fighting harder for 4th
position. Berserker being right on the tail and having a bit of contact with Nesterowicz, and Nesterowicz swerving because of it. Berserker seemingly letting off the throttle there, which would only be the right thing to do there, and not taking a position from Nesterowicz.
Nesterowicz took 4th position actually from Berserker there, so Berserker is certainly seeing red right now and trying to get that position back. So he tries to just get almost makes a move on the inside there of Nesterowicz. So Scott's still slotting in behind T-Mac here, so seems like they're gonna go at it at their own pace, as they're almost 1 second up, even since 1 lap ago from Nesterowicz there. So I mean from Stefan. Yeah, so they're just in a league of their own at the moment.
Although Zero Stefan driving fairly consistently at the moment, not making any larger mistakes, being a bit slower than Nesterowicz at this time. But if Nesterowicz and Berserker keep on fighting, that is very surely going to change, as fighting does cost a lot of time in the long run. As you can see, the car of JK in the back there, with the broken headlight. Of course, he being involved, I believe, in that incident where Dakuza had spun, I believe, taking quite a lot of damage from that. Dakuza as well, of course. Dakuza, who's currently in 12th position, who's actually overtaken Storment, and there's an overtaken move from Flask on King Kodiak for currently 8th position. They're fighting for, I believe. With Flask having also received a bit of damage on his car, I believe this has also happened during the incident with Dakuza in this very corner. But Kodiak defending fairly well at the moment.
Yeah, looking back at Pack and Ginetta here, Pack being Kodiak's teammate, and I think both of them. I'm gonna check the team standings real quick because that's something we forget to do every time. But it is T-Mac and his teammate
Desert Pack
Higgs
defending
Boson.
from Higgs Boson, who's currently not here. Dangerous Ginetta going on the offensive against Desert Pack at the moment. Desert Pack, who's of course Kodiak's teammate. There's a bit of damage on the rear end of that blue Ginetta. As you can see, there was a bit of black markings there. I do believe those are not, in fact, rubber from the tires, but the game's way of showing slight contact. So we'll have to watch out if that gets any worse on Desert Pack's car.
This is one hefty trainer for Kodiak's position, as TPW Flask and Kodiak has been fighting it out now for 2 laps in a row, it seems. So, yeah, Kodiak going defensive here as Flask wants to pass. Yeah, looks like tire marks, as you said, but it probably damaged. Yeah, so Kodiak actually going really defensive there and just giving the position to Flask.
Flask having enough pace to just squeeze past on him in the very slow end of Sector 2 this is. And even being able to take off a bit of time and just inch ahead so much in a very few row of corners. Kodiak, of course, now having to defend from Ticklish Picklewickle, who's probably wanting to do the same thing that Flask has done. As I say that, Ticklish Picklewickle comes on a curb and spins his car around and loses that opportunity to possibly attack Kodiak on the start-finish straight there.
Yeah, last thing I heard from the drivers before going up here was that the curbs are lethal on this track, so we might see some more of that happening if they're battling and pushed wide and sent flying by those curbs. So, we have a battle going on still with Desert Pack and Ginetta. It looks like Ginetta has a good drive here.
Good run out of the first corner. Has the inside line into the first left-hander of that S section and does squeeze past Desert Pack here. We'll have to see if Desert Pack has the opportunity to come back from this, or if he just decides to slot in behind DG for the moment, as DG goes very defensive on the exit of that left-hand corner there. Although not necessarily because he had to, as he did have quite a bit of a margin to the blue Ginetta.
Yep, and Scott actually moved up to P1 for a second there, and then T-Mac took it back again. So these guys are fighting it out like...
And Scott has the inside line there on the long left-hander, and there's a bit of contact between Scott and T-Mac there. I believe T-Mac did not see Scott on the outs, or for that corner, the next corner, the outside of him, tried to move over quite a bit, and as a result, had spun. I do not believe that...
Scott is slowing down to let him pass again.
Scott is in fact slowing down to let him pass, although I do not believe that this incident is Scott's fault at all, as he was right alongside the yellow Ginetta of T-Mac.
You can see on Scott's speedo there, he's trying to let him pass, and there we have it. T-Mac is now passed, and that's Scott up to speed again now, so... Yeah, but this has shaken things up really much.
Has shaken things up quite a bit, as now Scott is under attack from 5 Aces Nesterowicz, who has the inside line into the S section, but decides to pull out before he causes an incident there. 5 Aces Nesterowicz, of course, now being held up a bit as well, which causes, or leads to Zero Stefan being able to catch up again, as he's lost that position just a while back. We do remember Zero Stefan started in, I believe, 4th position and gained 3rd, and has now come back up, or has now lost it back, or gone back down to 4th. As T-Mac and Scott are still battling for positions, pretty much continuing where they left off, but there's quite a lot of damage on the left side of that Ginetta of T-Mac. so he probably won't have as much pace as he'd had before, which is very detrimental to his title fight at the moment. As dangerous as 5 Aces Nesterovic goes down the inside of Scott, who was trying to overtake T-Mac there, not being able to make that move stick, but showing himself in the mirrors of Scott, saying, "I'm still here." Scott has indeed received a penalty. A 30-second penalty. I believe that would be for probably overtaking while another car is off the overtaking off the track. I believe that is from the contact that he's had with T-Mac, and I do believe that he will challenge that and that the penalty will be taken away.
Yeah, that's certainly going to put a huge spanner in the works of his title hopes there. I think that's, he has to finish first in both races, so yeah. But being a good sport and then giving the position back to T-Mac there, that's the kind of sportsmanship that we like to see. And yeah, Scott's doing kind of a hybrid here. He's attacking at the same time as he's defending from T-Mac. Defending from Nesterovic, excuse me. Yeah, so yeah, Nesterovic is still in this title fight though. He has 2 points less than Scott, so if Nesterovic actually wins both of these, he's gonna be the victor here. But yeah, we've seen Scott's and T-Mac's pace. I don't think T-Mac is not gonna be able to catch up to
You
them.
never know what's going to happen if Scott and T-Mac have another, or if they possibly have another contact like they've had before. T-Mac possibly holding up this pack quite a bit right now, as we've seen the split times drop, or the times increase by quite a margin to as they were before. I do believe that this is due to the damage that he's received. As you can see, he's about a second slower than he was on his fastest lap, with Scott now piling on the pressure there, but just not finding enough room to really overtake that damaged Ginetta in front of him.
Yeah, Stefan trying to make a move on the... excuse me, Berserker trying to make a move on Stefan in the back there, but he did not. I think my race feed is broken again. Okay, so now Scott is just mounted to T-Mac's bumper here.
He's basically has a toe, and there's a bit of corner cutting there from Nesterovic, trying to get a run out of that left-hander there, it seems. Some very hard driving from them, as now Zero, Stefan, and Berserker are fully caught up to this group of 3 in front. So now Nesterovic has to defend from behind as well. It is indeed so that quite a lot of drivers have a penalty, and Nesterovic has received a penalty as well. I do believe it's for that corner cut that he's had in that tiny S section there, where he was trying to mount an attack on Scott. Didn't quite manage to do that though.
Yeah, 1 second penalty there. Okay, so now
Scott has the inside line into that final sector. The last 2 left-hand corners there, as T-Mac goes very, very wide. They're possibly a bit off track and keeps that position for now. They have been able to pull away a bit again, which might be to the detriment of T-Mac, as that means Scott won't have to defend from behind and can attack without any regrets.
Yep, just looking a little bit further back in the field, we have JK fighting hard against Kodiak, and actually just passed him there, so yeah, Kodiak falling further back in the field, so might be able to catch up some points in the sprint race, I mean the main race. So yeah, going further up in the field we have his teammate, there's a pack fighting with the DG there. DG was the one that went off in the earlier on as we came onto the main straight, and then we have Berserker. Yeah, we have this huge train then for first, as we have T-Mac in front here and Scott Nesterovic leading Stefan and Berserker. Yeah, so this train though has that incident actually between Scott and T-Mac just spiced this race up a lot.
Although so, Scott does not have a lot of time left, as there's only 1 minute and 18 seconds left on the clock, so this and the next lap are the only opportunities he will have to overtake T-Mac. So he'll have to see what he decides on doing.
Yeah, so this could be actually the title-winning push right here.
It could indeed be. He does seem to have quite a lot more pace, as he just sticks so much closer to that racing line than T-Mac, as he just stays behind and possibly wants to keep that racing line so he can take it as far as he needs to on that start-finish.
Okay, so T-Mac going defensive there. Okay, it's Scott.
With Scott possibly being a bit earlier there on the throttle. Now having a draft down the start-finish straight, he will probably have a look up around the inside. And T-Mac decides to defend early with 5 aces Nesterovich going defensive as well and trying to follow Scott still. Scott tries to go around the outside, possibly going for a switchback move there. Scott now has the outside of that first right-hander out of the hairpin, but might have the inside line into the S section there. There's a bit of contact between Scott and T-Mac. Scott loses the front end a bit and has to slot behind T-Mac yet again, but he's still right on that bumper, and just behind them is 5 aces Nesterovich. If either of them make a mistake, this victory will go to the man in the black and red car.
Oh, yep, here they come then into they're into sector 2 now. Or actually, there's only 2 sectors now, so excuse me. Yeah, this is sector 2. So this is a very twisted bit, and I don't think there is going to see any overtakes here, as Scott just tries to hang on to T-Mac's bumper as best as he can and try to make him make a mistake there, as T-Mac just going a little bit defensive every corner, shutting the door, and Scott actually punting him a little bit in the rear there. So here they come into that long parabolica. That's going to be a nightmare for the tires in the end of the main race, as they're going to spread that tire all over that track. Oh, Nesterovich is still in this fight though. Here he comes into the penultimate corner soon. It's a little bit of a 90-degree turn as well, so this has to be Scott's moment to take this win. Oh, he goes actually on the outside. Then.
He's going around the outside.
Oh,
and there's a bit of contact between the two guys. It's a drag race between Scott and T-Mac. And they're coming up to the finish line, and Scott has actually gone into first position. Scott has taken... on track, Scott has taken the win by... What was that? 0.01 seconds?
I can't believe actually that just happened.
Scott has done it again. He's done it again.
This is actually unbelievable. I thought that Scott might just been dethroned there, and might just...
Can you pull up the penalties?
Yes, I can.
And it is still the only penalty he has is the 30-second penalty, which means if he does not have to serve that, if this is cleared by the stewards, he will have won this race.
Yeah, I can't believe that just happened there, so... Yeah, just checking chat for a second, and Andrex says like, come on, King Kodiak, no need to sandbag anymore. It's a little bit light for sandbagging right now, but oh man, this main race is going to be very spicy, as they're going to start from the back, and then they're going to have to fight through the midfield. Oh, my game crashed. That's a classic. I'm gonna go jump there and ask if I can join them again.
You should be able to rejoin. So that was a very exciting end to a very close sprint race we've had. All we can hope now is that the feature race will be just as exciting as we have the cars coming into the pits. Possibly now. We're still waiting on the last drivers to finish, I believe, as the race has not been completed yet officially. It does say race complete, 82 seconds. I'm not quite sure what's going on here at the moment, as this has just popped up now, instead of when T-Mac and Scott crossed the line, which should have been the race complete. We might have an issue on Project Cars' end at the moment. We'll see what happens once the timer runs out.
And I'm back, yep. So I'm in the lobby and we're good to go soon. Yeah, I jumped down there in the Discord, and I think Scott, he didn't know what he beat him by either, so he think It could be like a 1/10,000th of a second or something.
I think it was either 100th or 1,000th of a second. They were basically level.
Yeah, this has to be the best finale I've ever commentated on. I can't wait for the main race now to see how the car is going to be more of a factor as well. So I think we won't see as much aggressive fighting.
Are they
like
back
that in the end there?
Are they back in the lobby? And am I the only person to actually still watch this race complete screen?
It says waiting for me, so yeah, I'm still in the lobby, so I think we're gonna be good.
Oh, it's fine. Good. You have to remember the penalty that Scott has received, as he's not even on this anymore. DNF it says, although he did officially complete, come in first. I don't think that the penalty will stay. So there's Project Cars doing its thing again, showing us all of its quirks and features.
Yeah, this is a feature. This is supposed to inspire people to become a game developer and make good things.
Yes.
Yeah. So something else I would like to see, like in the race director and basically the broadcasting it, that they don't have these super tight shots of the cars. Of course, it's cool that you can have them, but it's not good for watching the action, as you can't see anything of what's going on around the car. I'm gonna go back to watch the stream for a second, as I really need to see if I can catch. I'll slow it down as well. Okay.
What
so
are
it's
you
actually
looking for specifically?
It's one.
Oh,
It's 110 tenths. 110. Oh, excuse me. That's 11 hundredths of a second. Yeah. So.
Wow.
0.11 seconds. Yeah.
That's basically insane. Level.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stream right now. I really can't tell the difference between the start-finish line there. So, yeah, this main race is gonna be spicy. Yeah, so talking about leagues in AOR, I think this has been kind of an interim season for the GT3 league, kind of, since we don't have a GT3 league yet.
At the moment, yes. The signups are closing in 2 days, I believe. So for anybody who's out there watching this and is possibly considering league racing in Project Cars 2, it's still open at the moment. I believe we're starting with season 12 now. We're season 11.
I think that's season 11.
And we will be starting with season 11 in the GT3 series. Do we still have a ban on the Ferrari 488, or has that been lifted?
I don't think that it's been patched anything yet, so yeah, I think it's still banned. Well, it would be weird if it was unbanned, because it's still the same, I think. So,
well, that's an interesting concept. I do believe if it's still banned, we will still see a lot of Audis in some of the higher leagues. I don't know which tracks that will be raced at. I would be hoping that as for the addition of Mugello, that is one of the tracks that they're racing at, but I'm not sure. The Ferrari is still banned, thanks. But I do not believe that everybody has the DLC, and I do not think that you can race at tracks you do not have the DLC for, which is a shame.
Oh yeah.
As Mugello, in this track, I've actually, when the DLC came out, I went online in a public lobby, and that was possibly the best public lobby race I've ever had. The track is extremely, if you ask me, in this game, the track is extremely well done. It just feels really good. It's incredible, really.
Nice. Yeah, considering other leagues, there's going to be a little bit of a test Friday evening. So it's going to be a social race as for testing as well, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be really cool. It's IMSA inspired, so it's going to be LMP2s, GT3s, and GT4s. So a really big mix there.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's something I
that sounds like
actually
a lot of
really
fun. I would maybe join in on that.
Yeah, it sounds insane. Man, considering how like GT3s aren't that much, well, they're still faster than GT4s, but it's going to be tough to.
I do wish that they had more of the GT4 lineup that does exist, as an AMG GTR GT4 would have been my car of choice. I don't think it's a secret that the AMG is possibly my favorite car that's being built at the moment by any manufacturer. I'm completely in love with that vehicle.
Yeah, if you ask me, I think that's going to be a little bit OP, because I think it's going to be overpowered for the GT4s, don't you think? Because I think the engine is still stock, isn't it? Kind of.
I don't think so. They have restrictors on them, so airflow restrictors.
Okay, so that's going to be one massive restrictor on the Merc.
Basically, if it's the twin turbo V8 that's in the actual road car, it'll have a huge restrictor on it.
Yeah.
And actually a tiny restrictor, because it restricts airflow. But yes, I've seen a few races live on the internet. They're being streamed on a few channels. And I've seen some really, really cool GT4 cars, which I wish were in this game. For example, the 570S is also another GT4 car. I think there's also...
It is? Oh.
Yes, there's a 570S GT4 car. You wouldn't imagine it, right?
Oh, Toots is about to collide. He almost
no, I think they
backed
just parked it. Oh.
Yeah, he was reversing. It looked like JK was accelerating a little bit there, so almost hit each other. Yeah, JK reversing there.
AOR have leaks for different regions for Project Cars too. At the moment, they do not.
No, they only have EU,
we only have
we
one.
Actually...
we do have some drivers from overseas. Most of us are from Europe, but there are a few. Shaggy Dan is one of them. He raced in Tier 2 in the last 2 seasons of GT3. He's from Canada, so I don't think that's necessarily an issue.
Yep, and here we have them going away then, with Storm actually finishing in the back of the sprint race there, and Storm isn't really that slow. He's been a midfield fighter consistently, so probably made a mistake and ended up on the rear end of the sprint race there. So then we have the COTA, prone to making a few mistakes last few races. TPW, a little bit of a shout out to him as well, because he's one of those moderators on the forums and this league. So yeah, it's a lot of work for them, and we really appreciate the opportunity to race in this format. It's fantastic to do league racing, considering how clean the racing is and such. So here we have then King Kodiak, hopefully not sandbagging this time, Andrex. Oh, that was Toots. It looks like he was just going to swerve straight off the track there, and then... Okay, so JK in 5th, Flask in 6th. Flask being a midfield fighter, he probably made a few mistakes or had a few scraps, and then ended up in the midfield here. I remember him being quite strong actually early on in the season with... was it Brands Hatch?
Yes. Brands Hatch was the season 1 race. But then again, the race 1 of this season. Then again, Brands Hatch was very, very chaotic, I would say.
Yeah, that was. I think we had like 3 or 4 cars actually finishing without the bonnet that time. So yeah,
exactly,
and here being one of them.
T-Mac, who was by far the fastest man on track at Brands Hatch, was involved in a few accidents there as well, and had not, I believe, not won either of. No, he'd won, I believe, the sprint race, but had finished in something like 14th or 13th of the feature race due to having to pit 2 or 3 times.
Yep. So here we come up to the rear end of the field, and this is going to be
King Kodiak going very, very wide there on the exit of turn 1, or of not turn 1 of the final corner.
Has started the race. Here we go.
Has indeed started. Dakuza getting a horrible start there, already being overtaken by Ticklish Pickle Wickle, and King Kodiak having a look around the inside there as well. I think there's like a tiny bump. I heard a bit of contact on the left there as well. It doesn't seem like any of the drivers have taken away damage from that though, as King Kodiak is now just in front of... Oh, there's contact between... Who is that exactly? Is that Ticklish Pickle Wickle and somebody else? What other car was that? There doesn't seem to be too much damage on his car. We've seen worse in the sprint race just now, but as you can see, there's a bit of it on the front right, so he's possibly lost some downforce there. Maybe has some suspension damage in the front. As Pack goes around the inside of with Kodiak possibly just giving him that position with Flask. Now trying to move around the inside for Kodiak as well. Kodiak currently in 4th. There was a bit of contact between 2 Desert Pack and Flask there, which had Flask backing off a bit. Now putting 2 Desert Pack under fire from Berserker. Around
trying to push past on outside.
I believe that's a double apex triple right-hander corner.
That
something
sounds
like
super
that.
Advanced.
Super advanced. There is contact between Berserker, I believe, and I believe that's 2 Desert Pack again, and 2 Desert Pack had spun off almost into the pits there, with Scott having already passed T-Mac and moved up through the field. If he continues like this, he's got a very good chance of winning that championship.
Yeah, so actually T-Mac on the inside of him almost there, and they almost touch on the first corner. Okay, that's T-Mac with a little bit of a unruly back end there, but yeah. So Scott is now started the last place and is already ahead of T-Mac here. So if Scott manages to keep this position, and Scott gets excuse me, it's the other way around. Yeah, if Scott manages to get first now and T-Mac gets held up in traffic in the midfield area, as you can see, there's intense fighting going on ahead of Scott here with Kodiak, JK, and Scott is actually just driving past them on the straights, it seems.
What we have to remember is that there's a bit of contact there between kind of everybody, and Scott just seems to be the one winning again. Somehow he does it, I don't know how.
Yeah, he is in 4th.
But, if we remember, if our math is correct, T-Mac only has to finish in 3rd position. Which means if Scott only, though, if Scott wins. Which means the one person that could screw up the entire thing for T-Mac here is, at the moment, 5 Aces Nestera, which, as if he gets in 2nd and overtakes T-Mac, then he'll have to hope that he won't be overtaken by anybody else or not have a penalty that puts him behind anybody else.
Yeah, having a little bit of a look inside of Kodiak there, and Kodiak going wide, and that's gonna bring him that position.
Desert Pack having already received a penalty, and King Kodiak possibly receiving one there as well, with T-Mac now going defensive as Flask has a look around the outside into turn 1. Possibly hoping for a switchback move there, as he does have a bit of a tighter line out of the apex there. A bit more speed, and possibly a look around the inside of that S section, but he does not decide on doing that.
Yep, so Dakusa is actually fighting Storm right now further up in the front here, and yeah, considering the massive midfield fight, they're actually okay. So Dakusa going for the inside of Storm there.
Dakusa getting a very good exit seemingly from that left-hander there, and just outbraking Storm on the hairpin and taking that first position. With Stormet struggling seemingly a bit for pace. Pace not being an issue for Dakusa this season, it seemed at least. Instead, consistency being a problem for him. Instead of not being the fastest guy on the field, he tended to have a few spins and or incidents which caused him to lose a lot of positions quite frequently.
Yep, so we're having T-Mac moved up to P5 from Flask there, and yeah, so Scott is now setting the fastest sectors of this race currently. Yeah, so Scott is in his element right now, and this might just be the part where... Okay, so
T-Mac almost losing the rear of that Ginetta there, drifting it like it's Tokyo drift here. Possibly not the fastest way around a corner, although nobody is currently close enough. With Kodiak now going around the inside of Zero Stefan, and that is JK. And just behind them is Ticklish Picklewickle as well. So this could go either way for all four of them. With King Kodiak possibly having the best line there. Just kind of parking on the apex. I think there was a bit of lag contact between them. Nothing major as King Kodiak gets re-overtaken by both Zero Stefan and JK. JK being the laughing third man there. And just running away with that position.
Yep, going back to that fight for first position now, Dakusa is still ahead of Storm, but Storm actually losing to Berserk as well, so yeah. Storm losing for a few positions here.
And just behind them is Scott right now.
Yeah, just Scott just eyeing them up as they're battling here. Here he comes though. The gap was around 4, yeah, as you can see, 4 seconds to the back there with T-Mac. And yeah, so Scott is catching them like crazy right now, so won't be long until we expect to see Scott in one of the podium positions soon. And then it's up to T-Mac then to try and fight to get second position or third. So yeah, the gap actually being 4 seconds now from the leader, so T-Mac has one hell of a fight ahead of him if he wants to get this title. This is so close. So unfortunately for Nesterovic, that means that his hopes for the title is now gone, as he did not win the first race and he had to win both of them. So
well, there's a saying, it ain't over till the fat lady sings, and I'm very shy, so you know.
Yeah, nice one.
It's not over. It's not over just yet. We might still see an incident that has, or that puts Scott and T-Mac out of the race, which could give Nesterovic the possibility of still winning this championship. As Berserker loses the... Oh, there's a bit of contact between Berserker and Scott there, nothing major. As Berserker had lost the rear end there and Scott had tried to pass him in that small S section. I don't think there's any major damage on that Ginetta or on Scott's Ginetta there, as he now goes for the inside there. And just squeezes past the red and black car. Although Berserker still has holds on to the inside line and keeps that position for now, slowing down Scott in his charge at the moment, as we see Storment catch up as well. Scott having lost 2 seconds there compared to his personal best lap time. So you can see him losing quite a lot of speed and traffic at the moment. Of course, Scott already having moved up into a podium position by passing Stormet. He now has a much better exit than Berserker onto that start-finish straight. And Berserker tries to squeeze him out as much as he can, but I think Scott will be able to pull just inch ahead for turn 1, as currently Dakusa's the laughing third man as he just pulls away just a tiny bit there in front. Well, I only think it's a matter of time until he's caught by Scott, who will seemingly inevitably pass Berserker.
Yep, so there's a little bit of a train going on further back there, as you can see. Storm. Okay. Yeah, I'm watching the timings right now. Storm and T-Mac fighting hard there for 4th, and yeah, considering... Oh! Interesting lines coming through here. T-Mac having a little bit of a loose end again.
Trying to maximize the speed he has out of that left-hand corner there, which has seen him just walk past Storment there.
Yeah, DG fighting Stefan here as well. So Flask just got a penalty for exceeding track limits, and then of course it's in those in that middle sector there with those twisted bits. So yeah,
it's very easy to just cut a curb there, and having to slow down in these cars is detrimental, so the drivers tend not to do that, as Scott is still very much on the tail of Berserker, with Berserker, just as you just saw him cutting the inside of that corner just a tiny bit there, unsettling the car, and Scott seemingly having a worse exit though, as Berserker goes for a switchback move around the inside on corner exit and just pulls ahead of Scott yet again. Scott just biting his teeth out on the red and black car at the moment.
Yeah, the gap to T-Mac was actually quite big. Oh, it seems like, yeah, Berserker going for the switchback here, but Scott's gonna park it on the apex, it seems, and shut the door on Berserker.
And he is now ahead of Berserker, and he has the inside line into the S section. It seems like he's made that move stick finally. Now it's going to be the very same challenge for T-Mac to move past Berserker, as if Scott was struggling to do so, it's very likely that he will have the same issues, as you can just see Berserker just going out wide on these corners, just driving the wheels off of that car at the moment.
Yeah, so Scott's battling there with Berserker, and Storm actually cost him 3 seconds to T-Mac, so T-Mac has now caught up, as you could see, he's just trying so hard to get ahead of Berserker there and try to get that second position or third. Yeah, with Scott in second, or the COTA, as you mentioned, doesn't really have a problem with pace, as he's actually ahead by quite a bit, but yeah, Scott is now set free. I can see that he is setting the fastest sector times again, so yeah, Scott's certainly gonna be at the COTA is gonna be challenged by Scott certainly in the future, but yeah, the race is 24 minutes long. It's not even halfway yet, and Scott is now in second, and T-Mac is right behind him. So I think this is going to be a monumental fight to the end with T-Mac and Scott here.
As I believe T-Mac has now the inside line into turn 1, going past Berserker, who had a very, very bad exit out of the final corner, and T-Mac just making easy work out of the opponent that Scott was struggling so much with, and Berserker not having anything to answer with at the moment either. It does seem to have a bit of a better exit, but I've not yet seen a dive on the inside into that S section, so I don't think we will see it here either. Although he's still right on the tail of that black and yellow car, T-Mac does seemingly have the higher pace, which will make it very, very difficult for Berserker to make any move to retake that position.
Yeah, I think there's a good battle going on with Stefan and Ginetta, as Ginetta just got P8 from Stefan there, so I can see it on the times that they have been close every lap so far, and I think that's DG making a mistake there, and that's handed to Stefan that position of it. Yeah, so that's DG's teammate there ahead of him. Nestorowicz.
Very little bit of damage on the left door panel of Stefan's car, and as you just see him just now, the way you saw him dodge that contact, as he just noticed that the red striped car of Dangerous Ginetta was there. So some very, very attentive driving from Zero Stefan.
Yeah. JK just retired, so he is now unfortunately out of this league, so yeah, good run for him. Further up in the field we have Storm and Flask going hard at it, and I think T-Mac. Yeah, okay, so T-Mac is actually setting the fastest lap right now, so this... Yeah, so T-Mac is currently winning the championship. It's always too early to say, but yeah, if Scott does not finish first and T-Mac finishes third there, I think T-Mac is going to get the championship. So yeah, Scott is inching closer and closer to Dakusa now. As you can see on the timing board that Dakusa is slower by actually over a second from Scott there. I don't know if 1:43 is Dakusa's race pace though, but here they come, as you can see. T-Mac just pushing that car to the limits as they try to catch that lead.
Although we have seen Dakusa dip into the 42s this feature race as well, so the pace is there, but he's struggling, like I said, for that consistency that, for example, drivers like Scott, Berserka, or T-Mac are currently showing. If he can get that, he will undoubtedly be fighting. If there's a second season, undoubtedly be fighting at the front.
Yep. Should almost make a little tier for only Scott and T-Mac. They're 0.5 so they can get...
As T-Mac is trying to go around the outside of that penultimate corner there, the same way Scott kept on trying to do it in the sprint race. But Scott just doing the exact same thing that T-Mac kept doing to him, whereas he just parked the car on the apex, kept T-Mac, or kept the other driver from accelerating there, and we now have them going around this start-finish straight with Scott going on the inside of Dakusa, T-Mac going around the outside of Dakusa, Dakusa trying to go for a switchback, just going even deeper inside. Scott seems to make it work, T-Mac seems to make it work. The only man who has not passed Dakusa in that move out of this group of four is Berserka.
Yep, so as we have it right now, yeah, if this actually, this could be a little bit of a undramatic end to this league if this is the finishing positions, as Scott actually losing a little bit of time to T-Mac there. Could this be any tire prevention here? I mean, trying to, yeah, Scott going defensive, shutting the door on T-Mac.
I'm not quite sure, as T-Mac should know that he does not even have to win this race at the moment if he wants to take that championship. So he should not be driving for risk, because if he has an incident with Scott at the moment and Scott comes out unscathed, he might lose that championship.
Yep, so
but he doesn't seem to care. As they're going side by side into that double apex triple right-hander thing. I'm not sure what that corner is called, but it's caused
you know,
quite a lot of problems as they're going very, very close to one another. With Berserk having actually passed Dakusa, now being right on the tail of T-Mac, possibly having a look up right there, with being very early on the throttle now, having the double draft from, of course, Scott and T-Mac. Just behind him, of course, is Dakusa as well. Berserker possibly having a look around trying to go around the outside. If I were him, I would have made an even earlier move to keep T-Mac from changing positions towards the inside lane there. Being stuck behind Scott on that outside line would have probably given Berserker that position into turn 1.
Yeah, so Berserker and Dakusa could actually be the factor here, the X factor in terms of the championship of who gets it actually. So yeah, the Berserka and Dakusa seems like they're actually driving the race of their lives right now. Actually holding the pace with these front runners. So it's been so dominant this season.
Struggling quite a bit in terms of pace. 5 Aces and Sturwich and Flask being the fastest drivers on the field right now. Zero Stefan as well, with being in the 43s. And the guys in front actually only doing 44s at the moment. Scott's struggling quite a bit here, it seems. Maybe having eaten a bit too much away at those tires being behind Berserka would be one of the plausible explanations here. Although, as Berserka, that should have eaten away at his tires as well, but he seems to be quite on the attack here against T-Mac.
Oh,
they're going possibly 3 wide into that penultimate corner, which is always interesting to see. Now, Berserka has the inside, possibly the inside line. Dakusa goes very wide there. Not the ideal racing line there for that. Berserker has a great exit out of the final corner. Much better than T-Mac, and they're going side by side on the start-finish straight. And as it looks, Berserker has the draft, which means he will probably be able to take that position from T-Mac into turn 1, as it seems that on this corner, the man on the inside line always comes out ahead, as they're going side by side into that said corner, and T-Mac actually makes it work. Interesting scenes we've got right here. Really fighting for that first position here. Whilst two drivers don't necessarily need to, Scott has to keep it. So...
yeah. Yeah, it's always fun to see that camera view there. As
there's very little to say about these scenes explain themselves, as we have Leaky telling us that Scott is doing the Hamilton style from 2016, trying to back up his competition into the other drivers, which is actually a possibility when we think about it. Like,
yeah, that's actually not too... yeah, that is actually quite a possibility, as Scott trying to kind of make midfield tendencies for T-Mac here, as Berserker and Yakuza are actually fighting so hard to get him there, with Berserker being on the side beside the T-Mac on that start-finish straight. So,
oh, and they're bumper to bumper there. Yakuza going wide again. Still not the ideal racing line there. Berserker this time around not getting as much of a good exit, it seems, although Scott has been able to put a tiny bit of a gap there, even though T-Mac has not been able to do the same. There's no room for Berserker to go around the inside and have a look there. Although there's a bit of a lockup from T-Mac there, so that could be a sign, or maybe it was Scott, that could be a sign that the tires are dropping off, as Scott has actually gotten a terrible run out of turn 1 and is losing quite a lot of time to T-Mac right now.
Go on board with T-Mac as they come into that third sector now. It's going to be interesting to see how they... because it's just so twisty. It's going to be cool to see how they actually fare. Yeah, I'm probably going to see Scott going for... yeah, Scott's going for the inside line there. T-Mac going into the draft, and then Scott just shuts the door on him.
I would like to actually see the telemetry from Scott. Let's see if he's actually trying to back up T-Mac into everybody else, or if he's actually still going full throttle, as that's what's really interesting here.
A lot of trail braking through there, trying to control the car and maybe just control T-Mac a little bit, as T-Mac is not able to pass there, and just try to brake a little bit. Yeah, looks like Scott is actually letting off a little bit in that parabolica there. Okay, here comes T-Mac though.
But to me, from the throttle positionings, it does not seem to me that he's intentionally trying to back up somebody or T-Mac into the other guys. He just seems to be struggling a lot with the tires at the moment.
Yeah, it could be a factor as well. But we have it then as T-Mac is still not dealing with Scott here, and Scott just goes super defensive on the inside line there.
We do have a request for seeing the penalties, and as you are the director, I believe that's up to you, as I can't do that.
I will do that, but I have to mention that Berserker was in second for a moment there, as that super defensive line from Scott there has slowed them down so much that Berserker was almost able to make a move on T-Mac. Yeah, so this could truly well be the scheme of Scott here, trying to slow them down into the traffic of Berserker and Yakuza there. So yeah, we're gonna bring up the penalties now and see that Berserker has a 2-second penalty. So yeah, it's gonna be near impossible, I think, for Berserker to overtake T-Mac and take second position there. So as we have it right now, I think T-Mac is just now has the title in his hands, and he just needs to be super consistent now and not let Berserker or Yakuza get to him, or Scott even. So let Scott push him back into Berserker and Yakuza there. So yeah, very tense racing on the other end. Scott trying to manage it as best as he can. looking further back in the field, we have a huge gap from these front runners to the 5th place of Nesterovic, which is who is 7 seconds behind the front runners now, and the front runners are actually 1 second away from each other. Within, first place is 1 with second within 4th place, so really tight battling going on here. As you can see, Scott just being super defensive here and allowing Berserker to try and take T-Mac, because the only way that Scott wins this championship is if Berserker or Dakusa takes 2nd place from T-Mac, and T-Mac is now hard in the attack for Scott. Oh, I think they actually touched a little bit there.
It does not seem to be the bit of contact. The marks we have on T-Mac's car are, I believe, the tire marks from the rubber that's thrown up by the rear tires of Scott there. Berserker has a very similar thing on the front of his car, with T-Mac just still being in attack mode there, and Scott being in defense mode, just going so very defensive, just seemingly trying to manage his tires, back up T-Mac, and he may have lost it there now as he parks on the apex, still manages to keep that 1st position.
Yeah, I just noticed that Kodiak is actually retired from the race now, and gonna go ask him kindly. Okay,
and
that's
Berserker going, putting his tires on fire there. It's certainly not the best way to make sure those things last an entire race. As T-Mac has now overtaken Scott. T-Mac has overtaken Scott.
Yep.
They're side by side at the moment. Scott seems to have gotten a bit of a better exit there out of the final corner. He might be able to pull ahead just a bit and push T-Mac in on the inside there. He goes very early on the brakes, dives around into the inside, trying to take that position. I think that was kind of a borderline move there from T-Mac, possibly, as he did move his car in the brake zone, although there was not any contact between the drivers, and that's the kind of driving that we do indeed like to see. And since we're not at Formula 1 stewards, we'll let them race too.
Yeah, so I just invited Kodiak to see if he wants to come and commentate on this amazing final with us right now, but he was a little bit tired, I think, so we're gonna let him be if he doesn't want to. But
Scott is going on the inside of T-Mac now into this
okay.
cornery section and is pushing himself past him. They're still going side by side. T-Mac now has the inside line, but he can't slow down Scott on the apex. Scott now has the inside line for that double apex triple right-hander, as I like to call it, and he's actually pulled past T-Mac yet again. So it does not seem like that. It does not seem to me that he's struggling on pace. Actually, I take back what I said. He has enough pace to pull past T-Mac. He's truly trying to back him up into Berserker and Dakusa to take that championship victory.
Yeah, man, this... I almost thought it was gonna be... I totally forgot that Scott is just so dangerous when he actually gets behind you as well. So, as you can see, it's just been textbook defensive driving from him. But as soon as you let him past... I mean the other way around, he is gonna be out for you, and he is an as experienced attacker as he's a defender, so... Yeah. Scott just showing his skill here as T-Mac is just banging his head against the rear bumper of T-Mac. Excuse me, T-Mac is banging his head against the rear bumper of Scott there as he is just pushing him further back into the grasp of Berserker and Dakusa. Dakusa still, I mean, I'm really impressed that Berserker actually caught that huge slide that he had there. That could have been race ending for him, but he actually caught it and is still fighting. To actually be able to fight with these guys is a big accomplishment. As you can see, textbook driving from Scott. They're just shutting the door on T-Mac and trying to keep as much speed as he can, and that's allowed Berserker to come again.
Berserker possibly now looking on the inside there of that corner. No, just sticking to the bumper, being a bit tighter on that apex. Just being right on the tail of T-Mac, ready to pounce if T-Mac makes a mistake. Although, at the pace that these guys are going at, it might be race-ending if any of them do.
Yep, here comes Berserker almost going on the inside of T-Mac there.
If it ends like it is right now, T-Mac will be crowned champion. T-Mac needs to finish in second or third position, first, second, or third position, to win this championship, and there's only 7 minutes remaining. T-Mac and Scott are now going side by side into turn 1. T-Mac having a bit more speed there, now going out very wide, trying to make that corner as open as possible, just does not have the apex there, as Scott took that line from him, and Scott stays ahead.
Yeah, man, I'm just so incredulous about this driving from Scott here. It's just so good textbook defensive driving here. It's incredible to watch. Yeah,
it is quite it's quite incredible to see this type of driving. We're not used to it from the GT3 season, as the cars are much too different for something like this to really work. But as these cars are on base setups, and these are the very same cars with low power, fairly decent grip, and very low downforce, this is the type of racing that we can expect.
Yeah, this format has been exceptional. I hope we have more leagues like this, because this is what actually, it is so much fun to race like this when it's tight. And even though, yeah, considering the reverse grid starts as well, that's gonna allow Nestorowicz to be competitive with T-Mac and Scott. Even though he hasn't been on the podium every single time, he's been consistently in the top 5, if I'm not mistaken. I'll go check. Yeah, so I think this is a really good format. Yeah, Nestorowicz has been in the top 8 actually every race. So yeah, you don't have to have the best positions here. It's just consistency that matters most, and it's come down to this. Fantastic battle we have going on there. I was about to say that Berserker with a thorn of Scott in his side, but it's gotta be 2 thorns, because yeah, Scott is one of them, and then Berserker is the second best. Okay,
and
so
Dakuza has now actually gone past Berserker, it seems.
Yeah, so
they're going Dakuza going around the outside, just losing that position yet again. So these guys are also still fighting for position, with Dakuza managing to hold on there as well. So very good racing from him, showing that consistency that he's lacked thus far in this final race, doing this final feature race, doing fairly well there. Still in 4th position, so that's a good showing from him so far. There's only 4 minutes and 30 seconds left, so the clock is ticking for both Scott and T-Mac. With Berserker now looking on the inside there, the 2 are going side by side. So far we've learned that though, going around the outside into this tiny section here we're at right now has never been beneficial.
Yep, and going further back in the field, we have a huge gap then, as I mentioned. Actually, Nestorowicz actually gaining a fair few seconds. I think the gap was 7 seconds, it's 4 now. Yeah, so Nestorowicz capitalizing on the battle ahead of him there, so I don't think we're gonna see him up there with Dakuza and Berserker and them, but yeah, he's been catching. We have a huge gap then of 11 seconds from the leader for Stefan, as they are still fighting it out since the race started. Further back here, as we have Flask almost going off there with Ginetta behind him. TPW there sticking it out to be in the points with 25 seconds. Oh, I just saw in the timings that T-Mac, yeah, don't actually
and
lose
that puts T-Mac under attack from Berserker, and Berserker actually pulls past T-Mac.
Oh.
He's just a car's length ahead there. He's just ahead. Now has the inside line into that S section and pulls past. I think this is exactly what Scott wanted. This now means that Berserker will slow down T-Mac, and that possibly Dakuza has an opportunity to go back on that podium as well.
I think if this, yeah, this is actually, I think this should actually go down in the, I mean, Project Cars 2 AOR history right here, because this is one of the heftiest rivalries I've ever seen in a league right now, and Yeah, I can't believe that that's actually happening with Berserker actually getting second now. So, yeah, 2 minutes to go. T-Mac has been pushing like a demon to get ahead of Scott and try to keep up with him, but Scott has just been controlling this beautifully and pushed T-Mac into the grasp of Berserker and Yakuza, and Berserker is now actually yeah, contributing to Scott's schemes here, as he is now. Oh, here comes Berserker. I mean, T-Mac is yeah, it looked like T-Mac was about to make a move there, but yeah. So yeah, T-Mac so hungry for that second position. Goes on outside of T-Mac. I mean, Berserker.
And T-Mac is trying to take that position back. Although it is indeed correct that he has penalties. That Berserker has penalties, but
oh, yeah.
In case the fighting between these guys causes an incident to happen, it could possibly mean that even these 2 or 3 second margins that they have would be big enough to make that championship difference.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. That was a good catch. I totally forgot about that. I was just so caught up in the moment because, yeah, didn't think Berserker was going to get there. But, yeah, it certainly could make an incident, as there's been many in this league.
And it happens, it's very easy. We know these cars don't have any driving assists, and it's just that easy to lock a tire, especially in the low grip conditions towards the end of the race. Sometimes it just happens, although we do not wish it on anybody.
Quickly look here, as I think Flask just, yeah, Flask and Storm are battling it out now, as Flask gets 7th back from
Berserker
Storm.
has just taken that position back as you moved away with the camera.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching the timings as it happened. This is exactly what I mean. In this type of close fighting, it just might happen that there's contact between cars. We don't want it, but that might be championship deciding. We just see Nesterowicz coming in at the very, very back there as well, starting to catch this group.
Yeah, so it will be one more lap then, and this is the championship deciding lap right here, as you can see. Scott coming in first, and I just thought about something, because if T-Mac tries to make any brash moves and cuts a corner, and he actually gets the same penalty that the Berserker does, that could really spice things up as well. Considering time penalties,
the inside line and takes that inside line. But now Berserker does have the insight into that S section. This might cause something to happen. Berserker decides to pull out, gives T-Mac that position, but he's still right on the bumper there. They're going into that transitionary section into the left-hander on the back straight. Berserker just not going for a move, possibly deciding to keep that position that he currently has. Coming a bit loose there on corner exit on that curb. It seems like that with the margins as they are now, there won't be any more attacks, as Scott seems to be stepping on it yet again, as they're now pulling a gap. T-Mac and Scott are now pulling a gap from Berserker and Yakuza.
Yep, tire wear is also starting to be a significant factor here as well, as they, especially in this parabolic, as they come on to that second to last corner now, and it is, I can't believe that I'm saying it, but it looked so close there between T-Mac and Berserker, but it is actually T-Mac that wins this title, it looks like. Yes, so it is T-Mac then that wins the first season of the AOR GT5 League, and huge congrats to him, and of course to Scott for coming in and being a huge upset in the second round and all the way into the fourth, and has given us this fantastic finale. I can't wait to actually watch this back, because yeah, this has been fantastic to watch. And then congrats, of course, to Berserker and Yakuza as well, as yeah, actually hanging with T-Mac and Scott's pace is a huge accomplishment in itself. And we have the rest of the people coming in.
Also have to remember something very important here. While Scott did not win the championship today, he's won every race he's raced in this series.
Yeah, man, Scott just came in like a cannonball. reference Kodiak there. Yeah, he's been a force of nature. Yeah, he actually won both of these races as well, almost.
Yep, he got the 30-second penalty on the last one, but he's received. I do not believe that that is a penalty that'll stay, as it was because of a contact with T-Mac, which I believe was at best just a racing incident.
Yep. So I'm gonna go grabbing now both of them. So yep. See you right back.
So there we have it. That was incredible. That was it was a fairly short league for us, but very good transition, as I do believe that very soon we'll have the GT3 next season, or the next seasons of GT3 starting off again. Ferrari again, as I've heard from you guys, still being banned. I think it's a shame, as it's one less car on the grid. But
yeah,
I do see
just
why
moved them up here, and I did not expect this to be this intense, man. I was on the edge of my seat. I had to lean back from my mic as I just realized that I was shouting into my mic earlier on there. I just can't believe what we just saw there. That's some fantastic finale stuff right there. So first of all, of course, congrats to Scott for winning the race.
Thank you.
The fourth race in a row. Excuse me, is it the sixth?
Sixth.
Jesus, I mean, wow. I really have no words. It's insane that's a huge feat. But
yes, yeah, absolutely. I bet. But first of all, we got to congratulate, I think, T-Mac being the world champion for the GT5.
Yeah, congrats, T-Mac. Yeah,
cheers, guys.
Yeah, I remember watching the first round. I just saw your pace compared to the others, and I thought, like, this. I actually said it in the stream as well. We have to watch this guy, and I was not wrong at all, because, yeah, it's been insane. I almost don't have any words, because this has been the best season I've commentated on ever, and yeah, thank you for this. It's been amazing.
Well, he put up. Yeah, you just put up one of the best fights I've had. Like, amazing, and you was on it every single time, every race. So yeah, well done, well deserved,
man. Yeah, honestly, this is my first ever league that I've raced in. So I genuinely So I genuinely expected to be mid pack or at the back, and then brands went pretty well. And then just took it from there. Still got stuff to improve. Like, my restarts are rubbish. Starting from the back, but Scott, so quick. He's playing a few games at the end.
I was. I'm sorry about that. That was a couple of dirty tactics, but
no, it was good fun.
Yeah, well done. It was good.
Yeah, it was. I mean, just incredibly managed by you, Scott, as well. If those games were you actually trying to push T-Mac back to Dakusa and Berserker there?
Yeah. I was lapping about 2-3 seconds lap slower. 2 seconds.
Yeah, you noticed, because we were like, there's some games going on there. Actually, absolutely. I think Clan or Leaky Arms, I think is called in chat, actually said that you were holding the T-Mac back Hamilton style there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that was it. I was just trying to see if I could get Dakusa and Berserker just between us, and then that was it. Once I had them between us, I would have just tried to go off in the distance and hopefully be in a big enough gap. But I gave it a go, and he still came in second while still trying to battle for the lead. It was brilliant racing.
Yeah, so unfortunately Berserker had the 2-second penalty anyway, so I think it wouldn't have been enough though if he was in second. So
you can always hope.
yeah.
Berserker put up a really good fight though, against you, Scott. So
yes, definitely.
He wasn't an easy one to get past. And then
I actually want to bring him up there, so up here. So I just wanted to talk to you guys first. So I'm gonna go see if I can grab him for a sec.
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
No, yeah, that was really difficult. You was on it, but yeah, well done for the win for the championship. That is really good.
Cheers, man. Yeah, I was just happy with my consistency. I retired, came 17th in brands the second race, which was really annoying. But then all the others just keep it going. Put up with some software or hardware issues, but yeah, no, it was good. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Congrats, well done. Yeah, with the feature, is it the second race, the feature race? I always just take it easy, just because you don't know what the field's going to be like, and because I don't tend to battle with that sort of the back runners, that I'm not quite sure how the driving style is, so you always got to be a bit careful. But yeah, well done, well done.
Yeah. So
I am absolutely sweating right now.
I'm so hot. I'm so, my hands hurt.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about in the race, saying that I remember we were sitting there commentating on the same battle, just so intense and so hard for like 25 minutes straight, and I was like, how do these? I mean, those guys have to be so knackered right now. So yeah, I could see that you're both ready for a shower and a good rest after that.
Definitely, yes.
Just great. We kept it clean as well. Like a couple of door bangs, but like on the whole for 40 minutes on the edge, it was thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah, sorry for that slight tangle in the first race.
Yeah, that was from our screen. It was actually T-Mac. That was a bit you moving towards the outside while Scott was still alongside you.
Okay. Because I checked my mirror and I thought Scott was just a little bit further back because crew chief didn't say that he was alongside me, so I was just coming across, and I must have my fault on that one. I picked up a little bit of suspension damage, and Scott pipped me by 6,000 for the second. So
well, I mean, we spoke about it when it actually happened. I was like, "Oh, did you get any damage?" And I thought I'd just wait anyway. But yeah, it was. I think that's got to be that first race. It's got to be one of the best races I've ever had. That was awesome.
It's fantastic to see you rise, but like in this, I think I've commented it on almost all your. I mean, especially in season 9, you had some great races in.
Yeah, definitely.
That was super cool to watch. So it's fun to see you every time, Scott. And thank you for like, yeah. And I forgot. I just moved up the thorn in your side, the T-Mac. It is Berserker. How are you feeling after that, Berserker?
Very tired, sweaty, and very happy.
Yeah, that was some hefty battling going on there. As you got past T-Mac there, but I think do you remember where you got those penalties?
Probably in the first few laps. I was trying to be quite aggressive to get through the pack. I managed to make up. I think I was in 4th by the end of the first lap, and I honestly can't really remember. I was trying to hold on to the back of the 2 aliens, so just to keep up with them throughout the race was quite happy. But it's been this season's been quite tough, I'd say, because I've had a lot of bad races and it started to come together a bit at Catalonia. But even then, it's still good to be on the podium, I'd say, and to finally actually be battling at the front.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I really appreciate this format. It's produced some incredible racing, and of course this finale as well. And I think it allows some more people to be competitive, even though.
Yeah, definitely. Like, as I think was what we were saying in the last race with Andrex as well. These cars are so similarly matched that it doesn't matter if you don't quite know the track as well. You'll still be competitive and still have a good fight. So I'm hoping that this will be another league, because it's been probably one of the best racing I've ever had on AOR.
Second that, yeah, I'd really be up for a second league.
I definitely agree. I think the main thing with these is it takes you back to sort of general basic technique and proper just driving and trying to eke out as much time from the car as possible. Whereas sort of with some of the faster cars, especially with custom setups, it's more not just your driving ability and the driving sort of technique. It goes to setup and who has the better car. So it's definitely produces some of the better racing.
Yeah, so I don't really have any. I'm kind of stunned, actually. I really can't wait to watch that back, because that first race was just. Yeah, that's I think I watched the stream back. It was 11 hundredths of a second, so it was 0.11 seconds ahead of T-Mac there, Scott.
Yeah, I was looking at the timer on the top left, and first of all, I had the lead, and then as we got into probably about second, third gear, then T-Mac got the lead, and I was like, oh my god, please, man, let's just keep going, and eventually just pipped him. It was just that's got to be so close of a finish. Got to watch that back.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, I think we're actually going to wrap it up. This has been, yeah, of course, it was a little bit of a shorter season, kind of a good break between the GT3 seasons. So we might see some of you guys since GT3. It's, I think it's 2 days left of the sign up. So I think the bot has been.
I signed up.
You have?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking I was going to do it, but I've signed up now. Now that I'm with F4H.
Yeah, I just realized that. Yeah, I remember when we came on the grid that you've been signed.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that would be good. So I'm racing for them.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Cheers, pal.
well
Thank
underway. I think you really deserved it, Scott. That's good to hear. It's going to be fun to see where you go then.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just hopefully for the season 10, it's going to be really good.
Isn't it 11 though?
Oh, is it season 11?
I
Sorry.
believe
think
it's
it-
season 11.
Yeah. So many seasons, they just blur into one, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I can't believe that I've been commentating for what is it now?
It's
3
2.5,
seasons?
right? You did.
Yeah, kind of.
You did
Yeah,
season 9,
yeah.
season 10, where I joined halfway through, and now this one, which is basically half a season because it's the
Yeah,
intermission.
Yeah, it's gone so quick, but yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up with this. I don't really have any words left because I think I used them all in the commentating there.
Yeah.
And yeah, congrats again, and thank you guys for this. It's been so much fun.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
All right, guys. And with that, I would say we're done. And we'll be seeing each other again, possibly, for season 10 of the GT3 season. So that starts on October 10th. And until then, keep it clean out there, keep it racing, and peace.